Hello. Okay, so what the Akashic Records are sharing with us today, what they're asking us is, can you lean into your resistance with a little bit of mischief in your eyes? There really is kind of like a twinkle of like subversive, tricky, playful, fun energy around this. Can you lean into your resistance? Another way to say that is, when you're feeling resistance, can you lean into it? And I'm really excited to kind of explore what this means. There's a lot here. So I'm imagining that you could probably relate to this idea of feeling resistance to something. I'm going to assume that it's not a new concept to you. You probably know what I'm talking about and have felt it before. So with this resistance, it's almost like one of those like finger trap toys, where it's like the harder you pull, the tighter it gets. And so what they're offering us here is like, ooh, when you're feeling the resistance, it's almost like when you feel the discomfort of resistance around something, it's almost like you want to double down. It's like, I'm feeling resistance and that's uncomfortable. And to deal with the discomfort of the resistance, it's like, I just want to pull harder. I just want to run away. I just want to not look at it. It's like you're resisting the resistance. You're resisting the discomfort that's present. Right. And so it's almost like it can snowball, because there's all of this stuff around resistance of like, this is when you feel the resistance, you got to do this. And this is something that people talk about a lot. So there might even be like this feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to be handling this better. I'm not supposed to be resisting my resistance. I'm not supposed to be resisting anything at all. I'm supposed to lean into it or whatever. There's all kinds of messaging around resistance. And so that can kind of add to the feeling, which is not great. So it's easy to say, when you feel resistance, lean into it. And we're going to explore what they mean by that, because they're noting, and I'm with you, that this is hard and it's not as easy as it sounds. And so in this kind of like feeling of, oh, there's resistance and I want to resist the resistance, I want to run away from the resistance and escape it. Maybe there's another thing that kind of comes to mind for you. I'm really feeling this like instead of leaning into the resistance, I'm like adding more resistance to it. So what does it mean to lean into resistance, and why? Why do we even need to do that at all? What they're saying with like, we'll kind of like dip into those one at a time. So how do you lean into resistance practically? What does that mean? And they're saying the root of leaning into resistance is often linked to permission. And so resistance can come up around so many different things, right? It could be resistance of failure, of making a mistake or messing something up, feeling like very averse, like an aversion, a repulsion to failure. That's resistance. It could also be resistance to feeling a feeling, right? An emotion that's difficult or uncomfortable, or maybe that you're judging, or other people, you're worried other people will judge it if you feel this way, if you actually express what's there. And so we resist it, maybe through denial of like, no, I'm not upset. I'm fine. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. It's fine. And like that too, even that like kind of good intentioned like sweetness can be a form of resistance. So there's all, and that's two examples of something that has infinite forms, right? Resistance has like infinite forms and ways of showing up. So what's there when we're resisting something? I don't want to feel this. I don't want this thing to happen. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. The permission where that comes in is underneath the I don't want this. Sometimes there's a little seed of I need this. I don't want to feel sad, but right now I am sad. There's almost like there's just a trueness to it. There's an isness. There's a reality to that of that's just what's here. So inside that, it's like this invitation. When you're noticing the resistance, can you give yourself a little bit of permission inside the resistance to just be with what's really there? It might not be what you want, but it's there, right? There's something that's drawing you into that feeling. There's something, there's a chance that you might make a mistake or fail at something. So in that way, when they're saying lean into it, it's like, can you give yourself permission to acknowledge and be with what's already here? It's already here. It's there underneath, and all the resistance is an effort, an attempt to bury it and to deny it, but it doesn't change that thing is there. We're kind of buying ourselves a little bit of time when we engage our resistance. But through permission, giving ourselves permission to feel or to experience whatever it is we're maybe afraid or not wanting to experience, it's like you're cutting right into the thing. And that's our way through the resistance, is permission. And so the second piece of this is why? Like, why even bother? What's the point of leading into resistance? That sounds horrible. So what's the value in doing this? And we can kind of think of like, okay, I'm resisting something, and there's a charge there, right? I'm resisting feeling this feeling. I'm resisting experiencing this experience. I'm resisting failure, whatever it might be, right? This something difficult, something unpleasant, something that I don't want. I'm resisting what I don't want, what I'm scared of, what I just don't want. And when we fight the resistance, right? When we kind of add to the resistance and like really push out against it, like I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, as opposed to leaning in, what can happen is it's almost like we're switching imagery to a rubber band, okay? So from the finger trap thing to a rubber band, you're pulling, you're stretching, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it. It can snap and like hit the thing that you're resisting, that you're pulling away from, really hard, really, really hard. And it can almost be like a huge slap in the face. And I wonder if this has happened to you before. This is a vague kind of abstract description of something that happens in very real ways in our life. So, right, it's like you can only run away from something for so long. And at some point, you'll have to confront it, perhaps. And sometimes, if we are resisting it, life will just put it right in front of us. And it can be really confronting, really difficult, very overwhelming, right? It's like, oh, I was avoiding that for so long. And then when I was forced to deal with it, it was really big, right? It's almost like letting it fester, and it gets bigger and more scary. And then when the rubber band snaps back after we've pulled away from it, I don't want it, snapping back, it's like, oh my God, you have to deal with it all at once. So the value of leaning in is that you are exercising, right? When you lean into the resistance through this permission granting, you are exercising some like sovereignty, some freedom in how you choose to engage with the thing you're resisting. If you can lean into it versus avoiding it, resisting, pulling away until you're forced to deal with it, if you can lean into it, you can take it one bite at a time. And by going slowly, it's easier to digest that feeling, that experience that you're resisting. It's not as bad when you can slowly, in your own time, take it one little piece at a time, as opposed to letting it build up, right? It's like, and you might feel this, and emotion is a great way of it's a great example. If you never let yourself feel angry, never have let yourself feel angry, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70 years later, it's gonna erupt, and it's gonna be way too much to deal with. It's gonna be an enormous amount of suppressed anger. And any emotion, you can substitute any emotion in that, right? So what they're inviting us into is the opposite of that. Can you slowly lean in? Take it one bite at a time, sip on it. That way you don't have to confront and face the whole thing at once. So that's the value of leaning in. That's why this might be a supportive thing to explore as opposed to resisting. Because it's also okay to resist stuff. We all do it, and it's fine. It's not to say that resisting something is bad. It's more like to illuminate the value of the sometimes difficult thing of leaning into our resistance. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave you for today. And if this sparks something in you, I would love to hear all about it if you feel called to share. So feel free to send me a message on my website, minaruchi.com, or comment on this video. And I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, I'm wishing you well. Namaste.